nothing. I've already received 2 texts.
Text, and I've said this before. I don't know how you guys are with
Hi, YouTube.
with texting calls, but COVID has caused the text email stuff to go off the absolute chain, man. It's been ridiculous for me.
Oh, people text a lot.
Oh my gosh, text and email, and now I'm getting a lot of this. Oh, I can't. You're not responding to my text Thursday night. How about I call you Sunday morning because I know you're busy? And it's like, no. But I was going to say, I try to be pretty responsive. And if you send me a text or an email and I don't get back to you right away, it's probably because your thing's not an emergency. And as of right now, I'm responding to my second emergency that came up tonight. So,
one of the reasons that I didn't buy the Smokeball program, which is a file client schedule tracking system, was when the guys talked to me, I said, can you guys integrate texts? And they said, no.
Really? I have, I have a lot of my texts going to this one spot. I thought I was brilliant originally with all my voicemails going to one email account and most of my texts going to one thing. But now my phone is just inundated with notifications. So I've turned off my email notifications. I've had to change the way I do email. But the time we've been talking, I have 2 more client texts right now. So I'm to the point that I want it all to go to one place and I want it to not be connected to this thing in my hand constantly. But it is what it is, right?
It is. Well, boys, I just want to tell you that I am now officially broken as a Chicago Bears fan, and I am strictly focusing on the White Sox.
Whoa. What did I miss?
Nothing. I just can't take any more of the quarterback chat. We're going Deshaun Watson. We're going Carson Wentz. We're going David Carr. We're going.
Isn't this like it's just Deshaun Watson or who cares, right?
Yeah, we're talking about giving up picks for Gardner Minshew.
Another guy who's a backup nobody that we missed that somebody else managed to turn into a real quarterback, right?
Apparently we're not going to be happy until we've completely drained the Jacksonville Jaguars of all of their quarterback trash. So I'm 1,000,000% focused on the White Sox. So I've got the Sox Hawaiian and the Sox lid.
Wait, do we got to go back to ball jerseys? I can go get my Sox jersey.
I'm gonna start.
I can go get my Brewers jersey.
I don't want to go too far on this Bears thing. How do you leave this quarterback decision up to a general manager who has flubbed the whole quarterback position and has a 1-year contract?
How does that go wrong? His concern is 100% not mortgaging the future to save his job today.
Exactly. That's clear. Why does he care what picks he gives away in 2026? He doesn't care. He's not going to be here.
He thinks that he's going to re-up.
Is there a link on Twitter? I'm getting a text to check out.
Tell whoever is linking. I will tell them that I am still working as I talk. I will put the link up right now.
Okay.
Man.
Hey, our fans are demanding, buddy.
People and their expectations, right? Hang on. Oops, sorry about that. Okay. So let me go on the Twitters right now. And I'm going to do it. 3, 2, whoops. Hold on. Quote tweet. So many decisions on Twitter. Pat, there is now officially a link on Twitter.
Got it.
And I'm gonna rearrange my stuff. We got actual things to talk about. And while I was working on that stuff, I was thinking of more things that we won't even get into because we don't have time to get into them.
Well, start us off, Mr. Duke. what is the number one thing on your agenda you wish to speak to?
Well, we can go in the order I put it on Twitter or
Do that.
okay. So big story today. And I think there's two components to this. We'll see what you guys want to talk about. What our fans want. Kyle Rittenhouse, if you aren't aware, that kid who took his Illinois guns up to Wisconsin and got a little shooty at one of the Kenosha.
Shooty is the adjective that we use.
Ray, we're defense attorneys. Don't forget, we are defense attorneys.
He got a little shooty.
He got a little shooty at a gathering, an outdoor gathering with people. And the story today or last week has been, where is he gone? He was not at the house on his bond. And today they had a hearing to try to up his bond. They were trying to up his bond by $200,000. And the judge said no. And his position was that he was getting death threats, that the public and everybody knew where he lived. And I think his lawyer at one point made some statements that he had complained to somebody in the sheriff's office. And that guy said, I wouldn't be living there if I was your kid. So there seems to be some outrage that Kyle was missing is what people are saying, which I think is ridiculous. But there was some outrage because his bond didn't get jacked up and he didn't comply. What do you guys think of that?
Well, go ahead, Ray.
One of the things that they do in Germany different than they do here is that pre-trial, your defendant's name, identity, all that stuff is blocked. So it's not available, so you don't fall into this kind of hole. I'm sorry, Pat, I talked over you.
No, I mean, it's at least pre-trial before there's any type of disposition of the case or any finding. Shouldn't he at least have the same protections as a victim's identity and address and everything else in a pleading or court file or anything like that? I mean, there's still the presumption of innocence with this kid. Forget the fact that, there's video of him marching with a semi-automatic weapon or he's wearing fatigue. So while there's no point in having a trial, he's already guilty, right? So why not protect him? What if by some small chance he's really not guilty? Does he deserve death threats? Does he deserve people driving by his house and throwing crap in the front yard? Does he deserve to be heckled everywhere he goes? Just a thought. Just a thought.
That whole right now, somebody's looking at this. Not now, because there's like 5 people watching and 3 of them are us. Somebody out there is thinking to himself, "Oh my gosh, Pat says he's not guilty. Pat's a racist." Now, we'll get into his guilt, I think, in a minute. And I just want to point out that's a ridiculous position, but there are people who think it. But the interesting thing about the bond to me is I have not read one comment critical of the judge or one of these people who was like, oh my gosh, this kid's skating. I haven't read one of these comments that mentions the 8th Amendment, which is last I heard was actually an amendment that applied to bond and bail. And it's in something Ray and I are familiar with called excessive bail. I haven't seen anybody reference that.
That was a long way to go for that, Matt. That was a long way to go.
More importantly, Ray and Pat, as seasoned criminal defense attorneys, do you guys want the state auditing everybody's address on bond slips? Is that something you guys want? I guess another way of putting this is, what do you think? How accurate do you think most of those bond slips are when you get to 6 or 8 months or however many months out from when somebody first signed it? Do you guys think that all of our clients are keeping all of these bond slips up to date? And what are the usual ramifications?
Well, yeah, it says right there you're supposed to notify the clerk of any change of address within 48 hours. So I'm sure my guys are doing that.
For me, it breaks down right at the beginning, and it goes back to what Pat said, and it should be the way that we think about it. And I don't know why we don't think about it this way. You haven't been convicted of a crime. You're not a criminal yet, unless you've shown some other reason that the public should be in danger or that you're not going to show up for court. We put far too many restrictions on these people. And I guess that because I always have to deal with the defendant side, and I'm always addressing victims. But the problem is that victims, they're like, oh, he needs to be punished or whatever. And I'm like, we're not at the punishment phase. We're not at the part where it's like pretrial custody. You're like, to put a person in jail on pretrial custody should be unusual. It's not, especially for poor people.
So that to me is an interesting thing, because I would say that economically disadvantaged people are more likely to not be in the same place for years and years. There's a component of our client base that probably 6, 7, 3 months in one place is about when things have run their course. They get a job somewhere else, they wear out their welcome there, they move in with another friend. And I don't want people starting to think the fact that these people are moving and not updating the clerk immediately is a problem, unless they're not coming to court. And that's the thing about, go ahead.
There's an article by ABC, I think it's ABC, one of the Wisconsin ABCs, ABC News. And they have some quotes from the prosecutor here, and it's kind of terrifying, because I think this is the perception that the general public has of bond, and it's certainly the perception that the prosecutor up there has, and good for the judge. Prosecutor Thomas Binger said during a Zoom court hearing he sought the increase because the prosecutor, had no idea where the defendant is spending his time. The court has no idea where he's spending his time. And that's a very unusual and dangerous situation when you have someone facing these types of charges in this case. Knowing whether or not he's playing Xbox at home or if he's going to get a slushie at 7-Eleven, that's not the purpose of bond. Ultimately, Your Honor, I think this is a case where it would be important for the court to know exactly where the defendant is living. This is an extremely serious case, and I think it's important we know exactly where the defendant is, because of the risk of intimidation of witnesses, a risk to the community. So if this kid theoretically was going to go intimidate witnesses, nothing in this bond hearing that I've seen.
Did he say that out loud?
Ray, it's worse.
That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
Ray, I think in his written motion, or in an interview he did just before this, they went to Kyle Rittenhouse's defense attorney, who said, my kid's getting threats, I moved him. And the prosecutor's response was, the public, not the judge, the public has a right to know where this kid lives.
From where? Where does that right flow from?
Well, that's the thing, kind of like you guys are talking about. There's a component of people that think the process should be the punishment. We have to up his bond as punishment. And I agree, if this kid had missed some court dates or not checked in with probation, if he had done anything he was not required to do, I think you yank his bond immediately. If his lawyer is in a position where his lawyer can get him into court on 5 minutes notice or 2 minutes notice, okay, like that's how this should operate. Give me your address. And I don't know if you guys saw what the judge, did you see what the judge's ruling was on this, Pat?
Well, and that's in Judge, I don't know if it's Schroeder or Schrader, but Schrader noted there is no evidence Rittenhouse is a flight risk, purpose of bond, or has violated his bond conditions by committing a crime, purpose of bond, which would be required for him to grant the prosecutor's 2 motions. To issue a warrant now for a defendant who has appeared at every hearing, I'd be breaking the law, and I'm not going to do it. That's what bond is for, to ensure his future appearances in court and to ensure that he's not committing any other crimes. Knowing where he's at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday afternoon is not the purpose of bond. Knowing where this kid's at so people can drive by and post it on Twitter or Instagram and say all kinds of hateful stuff about him is not the purpose of the bond. The public doesn't need to know where this kid lives so they can intimidate him, which is what's happening to this kid.
And
I'm not saying anything about his guilt or innocence. I don't know that. But what I do know is right now, he ain't guilty and he's presumed innocent.
And what the judge did today after the Zoom hearing was the judge ordered him to update his address and ordered that it not be disclosed to who? The prosecution.
That's hilarious. Yeah. That's hilarious.
It is. I said that. I read that. And I'm like, ooh, that's a first. It's a funny first, but it's a first. So now the state doesn't even know if he's not compliant because they're not going to have his address.
You know what? I think old attorney Mark Richards got himself a pretty good judge, and Judge Schroeder there.
So do you guys want to talk a little bit about his guilt or innocence?
I have to
Well, we
tell
do.
you, I have, because this is one of the issues that's going to be brought up here. I want to tell you before we start, usually in this situation, I have not watched the videos and I will give you my entire opinion about them. However, this is a very unusual case. I have watched all the videos, and no, I have studied the videos.
Okay.
So I am ready to rule.
Ray, why don't you, I'll just say this. I was forwarded one of the videos when this first happened by my buddies who are high school buddies, like, hey, Matt, what do you think of this? I gave him a quick cut, which is, ooh, this kid's in trouble. Like that.
Right? Oh, yeah.
Today, when I was looking up the Rittenhouse stuff, I looked and I found, because I'm not a news junkie, I looked and found a bunch of videos I have never seen before.
Right.
I watched them today. And Ray, I think with that, so I'm not going to say I've studied them. Why don't you kick it off with your thoughts, Ray?
Well, when I watch the videos, it seems to me that there's two sets of videos. One, Mr. Rittenhouse is crossing a parking lot and he seems to be responding to a situation that has already happened. So I suspect that that situation is not captured on video, and I can't have any opinion as to, and I'm not trying to play the weird defense attorney or I didn't see anything on that video that would help me say that I thought that he was guilty or not guilty of a crime. Now there's a second part of the video. He's walking or running down a street, and then some people try to stop him. And then when they try to stop him, he ends up shooting them, okay? On that part of the video, I think the defense is going to do super well as self-defense. I think at one point, and as I said, at one point a guy hits him with a skateboard and then sticks around and tries to fight for the gun. He gets shot. Then another guy comes up and I think that he gets shot at. And at that situation, one is shot, one dies. There's probably a pretty good argument for self-defense on the second set of videos, because he is responding to being, for these people coming from either side and attacking him. So before I saw the videos, I thought, well, this guy's done. But after I saw the second set of videos, I think that with respect to the second half, I think it's pretty solidly self-defense. Now, I'm a little worried about the first part because I think there's probably witnesses that I haven't heard from, but there may be witnesses that saw him shoot a guy not in self-defense, and that's murder. So but I don't know, that's totally conjecture because I haven't heard the witness and I didn't see anything. I didn't see anything in the video that indicated it one way or the other, except for the fact that the first set of videos, he's running away from. He's running down the street, running away from that other position. And I wonder why he's running. I mean, I wonder why he's trying to do, why he's trying to get away. Now, just to add a totally racist sort of thing, at the very end of the video, the police are coming up. This is probably one of the most stunning things that I've ever saw on a video. We have a guy. Now, obviously, in this case, the guy's white. The police are coming up. They're coming up the road. Their lights are on. They're trying to quell a riot. And there's a guy with a gun walking down the middle of the street. And the police are like, hey, bud, get out of the way.
Go.
And they go right past him. And I'm like, I mean, I hate to be racist, but I can't imagine that happening if the guy's black. I mean, and the other thing that goes on is people are standing around Mr. Rittenhouse going, get this guy, he just shot somebody. The police go right by.
It seems like the skateboard, and we've seen a lot of that. The skateboard seems to be the weapon of choice in a lot of these protest fights. There's a lot of guys getting hit in the head with a skateboard. Now, I saw that one, and the video that I saw the most was one of the shooting victims. We'll call him a victim because he got hit by a bullet. He's kind of down on one knee, holding his arm. There's not much of his. I want to say maybe it's his right arm. I don't know what arm it is, but the forearm seems to be somewhat devastated. And in his hand, he's holding a gun, and they're trying to get the gun out of his hand.
Didn't that surprise you?
Yes.
When I watched it, I didn't see that the first time. And then on replay, I was like, that guy had a gun.
Ray, let me share the screen while Pat's talking.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You're good.
And I didn't, in none of the reports and nothing that I heard indicated that anybody had a weapon. You didn't hear about the skateboard or anything like that. And you've got an argument, force in kind, but I think if you're getting hit in the head with a skateboard, that can be considered deadly force or whatever. But
well, the funny part is just to jump in for a second, Pat. The funny part is that between us three, whenever anybody uses anything to attack somebody, the state's attorneys always say, well, that's a deadly weapon. But when now the shoe's on the other foot, it's just a skateboard.
Right. Kyle, why didn't you hit him with your skateboard? Oh, you didn't have a skateboard? All you had was a gun? Well, then you should be beaten to death. But
it's funny you're saying that. I was actually on a jury where a man shot 2 unarmed men and claimed self-defense. 1996. And you guys will be surprised to hear, knowing me, that it was a not guilty. But
you know what this is? It's my stunned face.
Yeah. So I don't have a lot to share beyond. I mean, I'm with Pat. Like, I had no idea there was a gun, and then I'm going to show you guys some clips from this New York Times article because it is a pretty good video breakdown. But after watching this, I think his trial becomes, and Ray hits the nail on the head with, you don't know what happens initially. This trial becomes an issue of who's the first aggressor. Because according to law, if Rittenhouse is the initial aggressor, he cannot use self-defense against somebody who's kind of coming after him because he was the initial aggressor. I haven't seen anything that really answers that question. I wouldn't be surprised if the only thing they have is Kyle's story. But the New York Times went ahead and followed. Have you guys seen this video where I got the screen up for now?
No.
So let's watch this. This is apparently, I think the New York Times was being nice, calling some of these video editors, producers, but there were people from whatever political party, both sides out there kind of live streaming stuff. And this Rittenhouse kid is at a boarded up shop, and somebody basically says, what are you doing?
What are you doing out here? Obviously you're armed and you're in front of this business we saw burning last night. So what's up?
So people are getting injured, and our job is to protect this business, and part of my job is to also help people. If there's somebody hurt, I'm running into harm's way. That's why I have my rifle, because I need to protect myself, obviously. But I also have my med kit. We're protecting from the citizens, and I just got pepper sprayed by a person in the crowd.
So you had non-lethal, but you didn't respond.
We don't have non-lethal.
So you guys are full on ready to defend the property?
Yes, we are. Now, if I can ask, can you guys step back? Medical, EMS right here. I'm an EMT. I am an EMT.
So those, I don't know what you guys think of those. I don't think they're particularly dispositive of anything. They're not helpful. If you want to make the argument that this kid went out there looking for a problem, those seem to indicate he's there for reasons he doesn't need to be there. He's protecting a building that's already boarded up, and he's basically saying we're out here hunting for bear. We're not looking at a non-lethal.
That doesn't help. And I mean, I'm not even get into the parenting of somebody who lets a 17-year-old go on his own to a protest with a semi-automatic weapon, but
Well,
Yeah.
the super interesting thing about it is that you get a person who's in Mr. Rittenhouse's position, okay? You would expect, of course, you wouldn't expect because we all live in 2021 now, but you would expect that the parents would be kind of cowed because holy crap, the kid's running around shooting people, right? I mean, that would be like, oh, we're super embarrassed. You would be so wrong.
So how, according to you guys, the fact that he travels from Illinois with a rifle, how much does that change the calculus? If this kid's from Kenosha and he's out there saying, my dad owns this store, it got tore down yesterday, does that change something for you guys?
yeah,
I don't think that defensive property with lethal force is ever a good idea. And I don't think that it's supported by the law.
So Ray, you're saying it doesn't, that is, Ray, you're saying that's a bad interview either way. It doesn't matter where this kid's from. Pat, you said in your opinion, it changes things. How's it change things?
I don't want, I mean, to put it as bluntly as I can and not to sound like, some of the Twitter heads out there. If I'm coming from where I live to Southern Illinois to protect the property of somebody I don't know, and I'm prepared to use lethal force to do it, it's a bad look. It could have the appearance of trying to pick a fight with my rifle.
Pat,
It could.
ladies and gentlemen, that's hundreds of jury trials worth of experience right there from Pat Walsh. It's a bad look.
It's a bad look.
It's a bad look. I agree, though. I mean, I agree.
Now, all that being said, I don't know that there's anything that keeps him from doing it.
I agree with both of you. Like, it's not. I don't know that there's no reason for him to be out there with a rifle. And the fact that he traveled from another state makes it look really not good. But as lawyers,
no, this video here that you're pulling up,
yeah.
Play this it. And the video that you're pulling up is what I was describing as video 1.
So this is the first video, and I'll read really quick what it says. Mr. Rittenhouse is being pursued by the group. An unknown gunman fires into the air, though it's unclear why. The weapon's muzzle flash appears in footage filmed at the scene. Mr. Rittenhouse turns toward the sound of the gunfire as another pursuer lunges toward him from the same direction. Mr. Rittenhouse then fires 4 times and appears to shoot the man in the head.
Now, can we tell? All right, and I've
this
seen.
This isn't a video. This is just a screen cap.
Okay, I thought I was. This. I don't know. I was hoping this was a video because this is all I've seen. I want to know how much of this is the New York Times, assuming that somebody's just shooting in the air, and how much of this is. Can we actually tell that this guy's just putting it straight up, or is he? How do we know? How do we know his intent?
So from my standpoint, Pat, I'm not sure that matters. If I'm the defense attorney on this case.
Oh, no, he's going to have a field day with it.
Your kid hears a gunshot, man. Like, he doesn't know. He doesn't have to figure out where it's going. People are running after him and he hears a gunshot. As a reasonable person, what more would he need to hear to defend himself? I don't think he's got to turn around and get hit in the head with a bullet, does he?
No. And that's, I don't know. Is that the dude who was clutching what was left of his arm with that?
No, that's the second shooting.
No, that's the second. This is all part of video 1. Video 2 is going down the street away from this one. And that's where the guy is next to him with the gun and gets shot in the arm.
Yeah, we'll do that next. I've never seen video 1 and I've never even seen this freeze frame. And
I've never seen this freeze frame. I've seen a video of Rittenhouse wandering around in this parking lot. What I suspect is after this happened or from a different angle where you don't see this sort of thing happening.
Now, if the handgun muzzle flash happens before Kyle Rittenhouse fires his first shot.
Yeah.
I think what was it, Mark Davis? I like his chances.
I like his chances.
Here's what it says right here. Mr. Rittenhouse turns towards the sound of the gunfire as another pursuer lunges for him. Now, I said at the outset that I think your only issue at this point is going to be who's the initial aggressor. And I think you've got, you know, if you're Rittenhouse's lawyer and you want a self-defense, you're licking your chops at this point, because this is about as good as it gets. You have the threat of a gun, and he doesn't know where it's going. You have a shot fired, and you've got somebody coming at him. And he's, according to the New York Times, walking away from the man who comes at him. So it's not like he's been watching this guy to know he's not the one with the gun. And then
if that's how it breaks down, I think old Kyle's got a fairly decent argument.
Then here we go. Second shooting. Mr. Rittenhouse seems to make a phone call and then flees the scene. Several people chase him, some shouting, "That's the shooter." As Mr. Rittenhouse is running, he trips and falls to the ground. He fires 4 shots as 3 people rush towards him. One person appears to be hit in the chest and falls to the ground. Another, who is carrying a handgun, is hit in the arm and runs away. Mr. Rittenhouse's gunfire is mixed in with the sound of at least 16 other gunshots that ring out during this time. And we got video. You guys ready?
Hit me with it. Yeah. Whoa.
Watch again.
I think old Kyle's got a pretty good shot at this thing, no pun intended.
Watch the guy in the white come by, hit him, and watch his power. Then he heals off.
What do you do?
Wait, did you hear that?
He shot someone.
What did he do? He shot someone. And what do you hear immediately after that? Get
Gunshot.
his ass.
Yeah. Oh yeah, get his ass. So I don't know, man. Like, I originally saw the video and was like, oh, this guy. But then you know, like Ray, they circle the gun there. I never saw the gun.
Even when you saw him on the ground, the aftermath video, when you saw him on the ground and the guy's trying to take the gun out of his hand and he can't.
Yeah.
Nobody commented on the gun. And I'm looking at it, and I actually had to stop it and blow it up on my phone. I'm like, that's a gun. I'm not imagining that. That's a gun. Am I the only one who sees the gun?
When you see it, you're kind of like, oh, that kind of changes the whole thing. One of the things that it's not a legal perspective, but it's kind of a tactical perspective. The guy is standing there with a gun. How does he not shoot?
Well, Kyle supposed to, is he supposed to wait and make that determination? Hey, is this guy going to put 4 in my chest?
Yeah, but yeah.
Ray, I'll tell you how he doesn't shoot. If that guy's the initial aggressor, he can't shoot. He can't claim self-defense. Legally
so
speaking.
That's why he doesn't shoot. He doesn't shoot because he can't claim to be the first. Oh, okay, that makes perfect sense then. Okay.
He doesn't shoot.
I didn't realize they were fighting by Queensberry's rules or whatever.
I think you just highlighted my favorite thing about self-defense. When I have a client who comes in and says, you know, I hit her because it was self-defense or whatever, it's like, you don't have any idea how complicated self-defense is, people. Like, the safe bet is, unless your life legit is about to be snuffed out, self-defense not the way to go necessarily, because when you tell the cops you acted in self-defense, you give them the ability to arrest you immediately because they've got probable cause that you commit a crime. And you put yourself in a trick box where there are a lot of really technical rules that are designed to not give you an out.
And again, we don't know who the initial aggressor was in the first one. How far does that carry over, Matt? If, in your opinion, if I pick a fight with you, all right, and I don't have self-defense when it comes to you, but I'm fleeing the scene, and I see a guy in a group of guys, one of whom says, get his ass, can I claim it in that?
So the initial aggressor thing The initial aggressor thing usually comes in as an effort to defeat self-defense, unless you're a slimy defense attorney who's trying to get in the record of the victim, in which case you bring it up just so you can bring up the victim's bad past, right? But I think the most important things on this self-defense case will be, does he have a subjective belief that he was being threatened or in immediate harm? And is that subjective belief objectively reasonable? I mean, obviously the state, I think, or the prosecutor's got some arguments on the objective reasonableness of his case, but I have tried a lot of self-defense cases that don't come anywhere near as being as good as that one. And I have done them with a straight face. I mean, this is a case where as a defense attorney, you're not having to stretch anything. You're like, it's all right there.
Well, and breaking it down to its simplest form, he fired his weapon on 2 separate occasions. One after he heard a gunshot while he was being pursued by guys. And the second time when he was on the ground,
right,
and he heard somebody say, "Get his ass," and had a gun in his hand. If you're going to argue self-defense, that's a pretty good base for your argument there to build on.
And the New York Times is claiming that in the course of that video, there were 16 other gunshots kind of going off and around. So this isn't, you can't even make the claim that this is the only 2 dudes out there with a gun. For all any
is it weird to either of you guys that this happened a county and a half away?
Never really thought about it, but yeah.
I mean, we're not talking about violence in New Jersey or Boston's on fire or watch out for New York. This is just down the street.
Yeah, I guess it is. I never really thought of it, right?
For me, is this happened in what, like August?
Yeah,
so
sometime in the summer, yeah.
In September, early September, so like 3 weeks later, I take a boat from Waukegan to Milwaukee and decide to kind of maybe like overnight camp downtown Kenosha on the boat without anybody, kind of slip in there, dock up. And if you've ever been to downtown Kenosha, that they've got a really neat park area that wraps around. It looks like an old OMC plant or a harbor. And that's just, I guess, to the east of where all this stuff was going on. And I was there a couple of weeks later, and there were people out partying in that park till like 4 a.m. on a Thursday night. Like they just didn't care. So it may affect you, Ray, but I can tell you as far as Kenosha knows, they got over it pretty quick because they were still going at it down there. So anyhow,
does this change the way that either of you look at gun laws?
No.
It's weird. It's weird watching that, saying, you know, like there's a lot of guns out there. Like when the New York Times says there's 16 other gunshots, it's weird to think that we live somewhere where people are shooting guns on the open streets of Kenosha. And I don't know if those 16 people, did any of them get arrested? I don't know. I don't think it changes my opinion on gun laws, but it is like,
well, you certainly haven't heard.
Go ahead.
You certainly have heard anybody question why those people brought guns.
No, that's what I'm wondering. It's like that was not widely reported that like people were shooting off guns like it was New Year's out there, and that is a little bit odd that fact just kind of glossed over, and everybody was put in these positions where people were picking sides about, you know, the whole thing, and it's like, gee, I mean, this whole thing is.
Does it now that you've seen the videos, does it seem like the people who are publishing the videos or organizing the videos really have instead of an objective view, they have a point of view that they're trying to sell?
The New York Times has a point of view?
Pat, this New York Times article, I think, was the most, I thought it was very well balanced and objective, even at times making it look as though Rittenhouse, you know, like they would say Rittenhouse's conduct was reasonable. I guess Ray's question I took to be like all the initial reports, and yeah, man. Like,
well, no, but we all talked about the reports when we first heard about it. Kid takes gun to riot, shoots
Right.
people, bad. I mean, that was it. That's kind of the story. Now, when you watch it, kid shoots at other guy who has a gun, after being whacked in the head by a skateboard in a crowd where people are saying, hey, get that kid. And they left all of that out.
And the impression I initially got when I first heard about this was that this kid was shooting back into a crowd of 30 or 50.
Oh, right.
That
Right.
and there was space between them. And then you watch this and it's like, no. And I agree with what you said earlier, by the way, about that surreal shot of him standing there and the cops just buzzing by. And if you read earlier, it talked about when he was out there with his gun that they were giving the cops water and all this stuff. I mean, it is pretty messed up that, that he was able to shoot people and just kind of the cops didn't question, oh, it's just a kid with a gun illegally from another state. Who cares? Like, that was surreal. But yeah, man, I can't help but think back of what I first thought about this case. Like, I feel misled, to be honest with you. I feel like there's a lot of people who didn't want this to be something that could go either way,
I can't imagine that you would accuse the news media of twisting facts to fit their narrative. I won't hear of it. The only thing that makes it odd for a kid to have a gun in Wisconsin on the street is that it wasn't deer season.
Right. It wasn't hanging in the back of a pickup truck, right?
But in answer to your question about the gun laws, I look at stricter gun laws like I look at orders of protection.
Yeah.
People say, well, orders of protection are necessary to protect someone from being murdered or being beaten. Violation of order of protection is a Class A misdemeanor. If you're going to commit the worst possible crime a human being can commit, you're going to murder somebody. Is the fact that you could potentially commit a Class A misdemeanor along the way, is that going to stop you? No.
Right.
If you're going to commit a crime with a gun, is the fact that, oh, you know what, I don't have my FOID card, or I can't, this is a weapon that I'm not legally permitted to possess. If you're going to shoot somebody or hold up a bank or rob a liquor store with a gun, are you really going to say, oh, I'm worried about this gun violation?
Okay. And your argument says that, is that going to stop somebody from willfully committing a crime? But wouldn't a better gun law stop parents from allowing a jackass teenager from crossing state lines to get involved to protect property that they don't own? Or maybe it wouldn't. Maybe the answer is it wouldn't. But the thing is that when I look at that and I see he trips, he falls, he shoots people because they're attacking him, I think, isn't there some way to deassemble this situation so that it doesn't happen? Because you have the mob, you have the kind of mob mentality, you have the kid who's trying to fight evil in his own mind and shooting at the evil. There's got to be some way to make all this not happen.
Restricting your right to own a firearm or my right to own a firearm isn't going to make them better parents. They're going to own a firearm, and that kid's going to have access to that firearm, and they're going to say, like I send my kid to baseball practice. All right, hey, be careful, drive safe. You're going down to Kenosha with a semi-automatic weapon and 15 clips in your backpack and your med pack. Go do good. I mean, that's not skin deep. That's bone deep, stupid. That's you can't fix that. And passing more gun laws isn't going to fix that.
I think that there's two separate things here, right? Like you said, does it change your opinion on gun laws? But if the direction the country wants to go, and I think part of the issue with all this is there's not clear direction like there has been at various times in the past. If the direction the country wants to go is that somebody walking down the streets of Kenosha during a public gathering doesn't hear 16 gunshots, and we'll leave it at that. I think it makes more sense to look at things that have worked with alcohol and cigarettes and I'm not talking about the laws necessarily, but some of the educational components. There's a lot of ways to change the culture of gun ownership or gun use or gun carrying without necessarily outlawing guns at this point. There is some, I think there's some merit to the argument that you could outlaw guns now, and it's not taking any of these billion guns off the street, right? Like none of those guns that were out there are disappearing tomorrow because you stop making guns. Maybe it affects gun ownership up the road 20, 30, 40 years, but you know, if the goal ultimately is to try to get people to stop shooting each other, man, I think there's a lot of resources that could go into that could immediately make a difference. And the reality is that Democrats or Republicans, you look at the school shootings, nobody has ever tried to fund this kind of an effort. I mean, I don't even know that there's been legislation about this stuff by any of them. So, you know, I think everybody look at gun, like I agree with Pat that looking at gun laws is a bit of a Band-Aid. But the reality is I don't think that there's a consensus that there's a problem. And this isn't my opinion. This is my opinion of the way the government's operating. I don't think there's a consensus that there's a problem that they're trying to fix. I think they just kind of think like, you know, this is the price of living in America. And I think that's fairly sad, but it is what it is. We have this conversation every time there's a school shooting. So what are you going to do if they're not concerned really about doing much about that? Why do you think they're going to care about people shooting guns in the air in Kenosha, Wisconsin?
And Matt, tell the YouTubers out there what we're talking about next week.
Are we done? We got Ray. Last week you got on me because we didn't have stuff. We are on point 1 of 4.
Well, wait a minute, we hit two, didn't we?
No, we didn't get a lawyer cat at all.
Oh, yeah, we didn't.
I want to say this about lawyer cat. How do I get that filter? That's all I want to know. How do I be the lawyer cat?
Hold on.
When I was waiting to get let in here, I couldn't find a filter. I mean, obviously you've seen me try and execute a background on my computer. Putting a cat face on mine is not going to work, but I didn't even see the option for a filter.
You know, one of the things that happens is it depends on which package that you buy.
Oh.
I'm not a cat, Judge. I'm really here.
And I'm ready to proceed. That was the best part. He's like, I'm ready.
So I'm trying to think about how would you do something like that?
Yes, Ray.
Your Honor, I'm not a cat.
Ray,
I'm not a cat, Your Honor.
You have to do that for specialty court.
I don't. Wait. No. And then you do this. You do this. No. Wait. Hey, I can't. This is not fair. Hey, wait.
Okay. How are you doing that?
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, you want to go to your video. You want to go to your choose video filter, and it's right next to your camera. Once you choose video filter, it'll give you virtual backgrounds or video filters. And then you pick which one that you like. Prancer, lioness, little piggy, bunny rabbit. I'll try lioness. There we go.
Nice.
I'm not seeing any of this stuff on my options.
Well, the other thing is that, and I think this might be the thing, I think I have a subscription to Zoom. Oh, yes, there you go.
How'd you do that?
I have antlers. Just like Ray. Oh, nice. When you go to the settings next to the video,
yeah,
hit that arrow and it says background and filters, and then where your backgrounds would usually be, just click on filters. This is relatively new.
I'm not so next to where it says stop video.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm getting the only option I'm getting is video settings.
But it doesn't say select a camera, the camera type, choose virtual background, choose video filter, video settings.
No, and it might be because I'm on an old version of Zoom with an ancient computer.
There you go. There you go.
Okay. All right, I got to stop this. How do I stop this?
I don't know how you stop it, man.
Oh God, it won't go away. Like, I'm not a burglar, Your Honor. I'm not a burglar.
Oh,
Oh, none. I got to go back to none. Oh my God, you can put eyebrows and beards.
we're having too much fun with this stuff.
Neither of
So-
which I need help with. I have plenty of eyebrows and beard.
But we
Well-
had actual legal conversation today, so it was a step forward.
Well, okay, so we kind of touched on Lawyer Cat, but next week I think we start off with the civil. Mike Wisnowski meets Shrek. The civil jury trial.
Oh, you go. Oh no. That was gonna make my head explode.
We need that. We need an entire. We need.
I
that's
can't
gonna take a
even
while.
believe that
All right.
oh, I have a legal question for you guys.
What's that?
So, in the case where you're going to be Zooming and you're going to be doing an order of protection, and you look at the judge and you say, I'm the respondent, and I want to have that person in court so I can confront them in court, and the judge finds that there's maybe not a confrontation or right to confrontation.
I don't think there is. It's civil.
Yes, isn't it quasi-criminal?
It may be procedurally, but I don't know the case to look up there is going to be Crawford versus Washington, and Crawford versus Washington, I think, is limited to, just knowing the way Scalia operates, it's only going to be what they meant at the time when order of protections didn't exist. Right?
Right.
I know Scalia's gone, but that's what he would have said, and he's the one who wrote Crawford versus Washington, which to my knowledge is the only real Supreme Court case on the matter.
I know and I haven't done one, but one of the guys in my office has done a couple OPs that are excluded. Even the other attorney, our guy and Dan were the only ones in the courtroom. Well, the judge too, but everybody else appeared via Zoom.
So, we can get into it more next week after that trial happens, but my biggest beef with that is they sent the jurors questionnaires and then picked 6 jurors based on that. So, the jurors aren't even coming in for real voir dire and then going home. And they did a survey as part of that is basically requiring jurors to have a minimum sort of buy-in for technology, which in Lake County, Lake County has some insanely affluent areas and some insanely poor areas. And I don't know how you guys are, but some of my clients are still not able to work on Zoom. And I find it a little bit offensive that these civil attorneys are just like, we're just going to kind of cherry pick people that are already there. It's whatever. It bothers me that somebody who is a guy who's out there who maybe doesn't have a technological job because he spent 40 years, making a living with a shovel or as a plumber or whatever, is now not going to get to be on a jury to litigate a fairly, important civil matter because he's not into Zoom, because he never, maybe he's still got a flip phone or whatever. My mom wouldn't have been able to do it. That's where my complaints start.
I got an email saying that we have a fairly heavy call next week, and that only negotiated pleas or hearings can be in court.
What?
So my
Where?
office in misdemeanor court upstairs.
So your response, Pat, is
301 or 301
all the way down.
or
not pleading to anything, right?
Well, the ladies in my office were making phone calls today, and every 15 minutes they'd come in, and somebody would say they so and so can't do Zoom. So and so has tried it. They don't want to do it. They don't trust it. They don't do. Okay.
I have one guy who won't wear a mask and they won't let him in the courthouse.
Ray, here's what he
Yes.
needs to do. He needs to go on Zoom.
Is the Zorro mask coming back?
Put him on Zoom. There you go.
Nice.
There's your mask.
Well, we'll get more into that civil thing next week. All gripes aside, guys, let's a round of applause for 2 little civil attorneys for being brave enough to actually do a trial. We're proud of you guys. We're proud of you guys.
I hope it's not a big money case.
I'm trying to hear. Do you want me to look into it? I can find out. I'm sure, knowing the way the Illinois State Bar Association works and knowing how these civil weenies operate, that the Brave trial attorneys who are lead counsel and the names of the law firms are going to be in the story, right? Isn't that
the brave lawyers?
I mean, you guys have, like, they all put out press releases and stuff anytime they win $5, don't they?
They do. They do.
It is bravery because I don't know how Lake County, but apparently on our county, McHenry County, the civil side is just crawling with the Rona because they don't want anybody there. But on our side, we must be clean
because
we're gonna have jurors.
We social distance better, Pat.
Yeah, well, we're gonna have jurors in 2 weeks, so I hope it's.
Well, you guys have noticed that it was recently all of a sudden the jail is announcing COVID numbers, right?
Yes.
They go a year and don't announce one number, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, we've only got 3. Right. All right, let's see if we can find out the name of these brave attorneys. The judge and the clerk will be the only people in there. No, I don't think that they did give us the name of these very brave attorneys doing the 6-man jury over the Zoom court.
How do I refresh somebody's recollection?
Pat, do you think that these people, I guess in theory, they're thinking they got depositions and stuff, they don't hate it, but do you think, I want to know who these attorneys are, right? I mean, that's something you think of without even thinking, but these people are probably doing their first trial in like the last 9 years, right?
Well,
they're probably only doing it because it's some super fake moot court thing.
When we talk next week, I'll renew my rant about my jury experience in the area of social distancing, just so I can get used. I'll just little long toss so I can make some objections for my upcoming 47 jury trials that I have set in the first 2 weeks.
I was going to say a little warm up, and then next week we can talk as well about if we get our civil our speedy trial rights back. What's that going to look like?
It's going to look like a giant mess. Did we ever lose them? That's what Judge W would say. Did we ever lose them?
We did. I watched somebody in Kane County demanding for about the 8th time today.
Oh, no way.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
And what did the judge do?
The judge said, state what day do you want? And the state was like April 2nd.
Right.
And the judge was like, I don't think we can do it by April 2nd. And he was like, the prosecutor was like, well, the defendant's in custody and demanding. And the judge is like, is it your position that the speedy trial clock is running? And the state's attorney said no. And then the judge said, I don't think we can do it April 2nd. And he then they said, okay, judge, we can go to June as long as it's not counting against us. And the judge was like, thank you.
And the guy's in custody the whole time?
The guy's in custody, and okay, I'll share what I saw on Zoom. And you guys
No, you know what happens? Pat, here's what happens. They wait till June. They have the trial. The guy is sentenced to less time than he served.
Ray,
right?
It's worse than that. It's worse than that.
That's how that goes.
This is what I
sentenced you to 60 days, but I have 120 in.
I want to get this out there on the record so when people are like, oh, these poor state's attorneys. Apparently this guy's story is he comes in prior to COVID, he's in custody. It's I think, felony dombat against an ex-girlfriend. He demands prior to COVID. He has a trial date prior to COVID. The victim does not show up. The judge says, state, I'll give you one more crack at this. That was a year ago. The guy is still in. And
they had one long crack.
When the prosecutor then says, okay, judge, we'll take a June date or whatever, the defense attorney, a pretty good attorney, speaks up and says, judge, just so you know, we already went through this once. We were there pre-COVID. I'm not going to stop demanding. And I don't believe they have talked to this victim at all in the last year. And we're here for pretrial today. And I don't think that they're ready to go today. And what happened?
Another date.
You know, the Supreme Court can say they're just going to get rid of the speedy trial rights, but right, this is a guy who legitimately, one way or another, probably would have been out of jail a year ago either way, even if he lost. And he's sitting there. There's nothing he could do.
It seems like that might offend due process, but I'm not sure how.
Might offend some guys who put their lives and fortunes on the line about 250 years ago too, but we can offend them. That's okay.
What do you think the state's attorney's response was to the defense attorney making that record of him having not talked to the victim?
He didn't respond.
No, he
Not a damn thing.
objected. He tried to cut her off and objected and said she shouldn't be talking like that. And the judge was like, I'm going to let her make a record.
Whoa, wait. She shouldn't be talking. Hold on. Pardon me for a moment. I shouldn't be talking about the fact that you haven't talked to a victim.
Well, he didn't make that admission, Ray, but yeah, that's basically what he said.
That makes me sad. Anyway,
Sick.
those topics and even more, we will be talking to you next week. So tune in, all three of you, or maybe two of you.
We had 5 tonight.
Say goodnight, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Adios, YouTubers.